going on, y'all? This be your boy Scotty by Nature TV, and it's time for the very first episode of Durag Diaries, okay? Now, Durag Diaries are basically a newer version of Bitch Are You Serious? I've decided to leave Bitch Are You Serious with Mr. Still Standing. We are now Scotty by Nature TV, and we are now growing, trying to be a little bit more refined, but still keeping it real all at the same time. Durag Diaries is basically, like I said, Bitch Are You Serious, where I tell you about what the fuck moments in my life. I tell you about stories that happened in my life. I tell you about a lot of my personal life in this particular segment. I may even allow you guys to email me and tell me about your personal life, and I could give you advice about the things that you're going through. We can always do that if that's what you want. So with that, without any further ado, let's get into Durag Diaries, the very first episode. Let's see how this goes. It is now June 28th. It's been over a month since my uncle has passed away. As you guys already know, on May the 18th, 2021, my Uncle Ken passed away. He was really my mother's first cousin, but they were raised like brother and sister. I mean, there were two sisters' kids. They were just like brother and sister. They never considered themselves cousins. It was always my brother Ken or my sister. It was never cousins. It was always my brother, my sister, or whatever. He always acknowledged her as his sister. So in turn, that was my uncle. So, back in March, my mother told me that my Uncle Ken was on his way to Mississippi from Pennsylvania against the doctor's orders. He was adamant about coming home. A little bit around this time last year, my mother informed me that my Uncle Ken was diagnosed with throat cancer. But I was like, okay, you know, he's a fighter, he's strong, he's been through a lot of things that were worse than this. He can get through it. But I did not know the severity of his illness. In March, when he was on his way to Mississippi, he had to go to the hospital at least 4 times on his way down with his wife. My mother felt as though he was coming home to pass. I understood where she was coming from. I didn't want her to speak it to existence because 3 years earlier, my Uncle Vest died of stomach cancer, I think. And he came home from Florida against the doctor's wishes, of course. But he came to Mississippi anyway. He was adamant. He was only here for about 2 or 3 months, and he passed away, and I never got the chance to see him in those 2 or 3 months because sometimes you get so busy in your own life, you're working, you're too tired to do stuff. That's just what it was for me. So I never got the chance to see my Uncle Vest before he died. So when my mother said that she felt that he was passing, well, coming home to pass, it was like, girl, don't say that. You know what I mean? But after she said what she said, she told me that he was diagnosed with 6.5 months. 6 months to a year to live. I don't know when he was given that time, but ain't no telling when he was given that time, and that could be why he was so adamant about coming home. So then he finally came down to Mississippi. My brother was in school at the time. My brother's in college. He was in school at the time, so we let him sleep in my brother's room. Him and his wife sleep in my brother's room. He had a tube in his throat. He didn't look the same as he did the last time I saw him. But he could still walk around, do for himself, go to the bathroom by himself, take his own baths, talk just a little bit. Not as well as he used to, but just a little bit. And it was a joy, but at the same time, it was like you're watching him deteriorate before your eyes. But it wasn't so bad at the beginning. In early April, maybe like 2 weeks after he came home, I went to Detroit for the weekend. I came back home from Detroit. He could not speak anymore. And then maybe a few weeks, maybe like a week or 2 later, he couldn't go to the bathroom alone. He couldn't take baths by himself. He had to have help with everything, and if he had something to say, he had to write it down. My brother came home from school. We had to move him and his wife out of my brother's room, and we decided to put them in the den. So we moved everything around, and we put his hospital bed in there, and now he was in hospice, and he didn't want to go to the hospital to do hospice. He did hospice right at our house. So we put the hospital bed, we moved the love seat over, we pushed everything to one side, and we had him by like the bookshelf, and we had like his hospital bed like centered this way. Had his machines on the side. He even had his little TV right here where he can control it on his own. So he was comfortable. And his wife slept on the couch in there. So that den was basically his sanctuary, his castle. I didn't really bother him too much. I come in there, I give him a dap, I talk to him a little bit, make him laugh, make him smile. Me and my brother would, and we'll do that. Now I know during the time he was getting sicker, his sister was like, I don't know, I'm trying to calm down. My job won't let me come. I'm trying to come at least by July. I said, if you wait till July, you're going to regret that. I said that. A few days later, I found out she was on her way home to come and visit him. To my knowledge, well, not to my knowledge, Ken and his sister had not seen each other since they were teenagers. When his sister, my cousin slash TT, because she was very close to my mom as well, when she left Mississippi and went to Grambling, she never really returned. I can honestly say that I may have seen her a few times out of my life before now. I think the first time, because most of the time growing up, I would hear her over the phone or on my mother's answer machine when she would leave messages, because she was in the military. So she was in Turkey, she was in Wyoming, she was in Florida, she was in DC, now she's in Maryland. So she was all over the place. She was never staying in one spot for a long time. She was always all over the place. So I would probably say the first time I saw her in person, I had to be in the 6th grade. I had to be 12 the first time I remember. My first memory of her had to be when I was 12. I didn't see her again until I was 17. And then I saw her again. No, let me take that back. It wasn't 12. I was in elementary school the first time I saw her. So it had to be around maybe 7, 8. Then the next time it was 12. Then the next time it was 17. And then the next time I didn't see her again after that until I was about, I think, 29. She came home. For a split second I saw her when I was 29. Then the next time I saw her, it was like a few days before my Uncle Ken had passed. So she came home. I had not seen her since like maybe 3 years prior. And her and my mom reconnected because they hadn't talked in years. And she spent the entire weekend. Now this was the particular weekend where Jamar and I was supposed to fly to Dallas and film the Grind Dallas Editions reunion. I was supposed to be a host. Jamar was going to be the co-host. He was going to be, dealing with the people that was on Skype. You know what I mean? So that's how they had it all set up. We were supposed to be going to Dallas. I was supposed to link up. We were supposed to link up with Josiah and Nisi. We was going to have a ball. But the day before, everything got canceled. The reunion was shut down because of the cast members, and production called me and Jamar, let us know that we were no longer going, and they even paid for our flights, hotels, everything, and it just didn't turn out the way we wanted it to go. So we were kind of bummed out about it and all of that stuff, and it just didn't happen the way we wanted it to. So I wound up staying at home those 4 days, and I spent it with Ken. We had a lot of our family members over. That was probably the most I ever seen him smile in a long time. When he was sitting there, like, he was so happy to see his sister. Like, he had not seen her since he was about 16. He was probably 16 the last time he seen her. Like, when she graduated high school, she was gone. She went to college in Grambling, and she never looked back. She probably came back maybe to see his mom or whatnot, their mother, and then their mother died in '83. So I would say she probably came back for the funeral, and she saw him then, and that was probably the very last time she saw him was after their mother died. So she was here for the whole weekend. She came in Thursday night. She came to the house Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By Monday, she was gone. She said, "I'm gonna get on the plane and head back to Maryland. I should be flying in into Maryland like early Tuesday morning." So Monday night, I had done some content. I was getting myself prepared for work the next day because, I was off the whole weekend. I was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. And I hadn't been to work since Thursday, so I was getting myself. I had just done some videos that night, and it was like 12. And normally around this time, I call. I'm on the phone, and I think that night I was talking to Brandon, and I was walking through the den, and he was wide awake. Like, he was wide awake. He don't normally be wide awake around this time, so he was wide awake, and I was like, "You good?" He was like, "Do you need anything?" He was like, and I was like, "Okay." So I went in the kitchen, got me like probably a Coca-Cola or something like that. Came back through. I said, "Well, good night," and he was like, because that's how he would say good night. That was like at 12:30 in the morning. Maybe at 8 o'clock, 8:30, I get a knock on the door, and it was my mom. And I'm just laying there because I know I got to get up for work. My mother is in tears, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" She said, "Ken is gone." First thing I said was, "Gone where?" Because in my mind, I just talked to this man like 7, 8 hours ago. He was good. He was up. He was fine. She was like, "He's gone." And I said, "Gone where? To the hospital?" She was like, "No, he's gone." And she was like, I was like, "He gone." And she was like, "He's gone." I was like, oh my God. So I guess I was numb because it didn't, it's like it didn't even bother me at the beginning. It was like it didn't really bother me at the beginning or nothing like that. I was just sitting there like chilling, like, my mother breaking down. I'm making all the phone calls, letting the family know what's going on and shit like that. And then, that's where it's at. You know what I mean? So everybody started coming over to the house. He was still laying there dead. We waiting on the people to come and get his body. And I'm still trying to get up and go to work. And then when I saw everybody crying, I'm like, I got to go. So my cousin said, "You don't need to be going to work." I said, "I got to go." I left, got in the car, headed to work, and I broke down. I made it to work. I only stayed at work for maybe 20 minutes, and they made me go home. So after that, I came home. My mother was still hurting. She was still crying. I started breaking down again, and it was just like every single night after that, I broke down every night. And I don't know if it was because he died in my home. I don't know if it was because I was the last one to have an interaction with him before he died. I just don't know what it was, but it was like a weird feeling. The feeling around the house was very eerie, like having to walk through the den knowing that he's not there anymore was a lot. So we get to his wife. So we buried him a couple of days later. We have a graveside service. And my mother had a guy here because that's one of her good friends. Whenever he would come in from Georgia, she'll let him stay with us or whatever for the time, and then he'll go home or whatever. We noticed that even when Ken was alive, she kind of took a liking to him. Like, I'm guessing he was making her laugh and shit while everything was going on. And, all of that. One night I came home and she was already asleep. I had came home from work. It was one of my late days. It was like a Tuesday. I got home and she was already asleep. And he was already asleep. We was confused. And the next day she left, and she didn't even bother to try to tell nobody that she was leaving, because she was still here. Maybe about 2 weeks after he passed and died and was buried, she stayed an extra 2 weeks. And she said that he was driving her, the friend of the family was driving her back to Pennsylvania, and she was going to send him back on the Greyhound bus. Ask me, has he come back? Ask me, has she called? Ask me anything. We're all suspecting that at this point, they've been plotting to be together while this man has been dying. You crying, all this other stuff, but now you acting real shady. Your family wasn't even calling you while this man was dying. But as soon as he passed away, it's like, oh, everybody calling now. Because he's in the military, he had money left over, you know what I mean? He was whatever. So it's like, now she looking shady, and my mother is pissed. And it's just like, I understand where she coming from, and I just hate that it's going on like that. But all in all, I really do miss my Uncle Ken. I really do. He was very non-judgmental. He had a great heart. He was always there for us. And it's even hard now just talking about it. He was a light for us throughout everything. I remember when we found ourselves without a house to live in, he was there for us. I remember when we was like struggling this summer before we lost our house, he was there for us. He was helping me pay the bills. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't do it all by myself. I wasn't making the kind of money I make now. So it was like, he was helping me. He was giving me all types of advice, all types of encouragement, and all of that stuff. And now, it's been difficult. It's been a long road. It's like I get better, but I do have my days where he runs across my mind. In my job, they was playing Puff Daddy's "I'll Be Missing You" about 2 weeks ago, and I had to get out. I had to leave. I had to go in this bathroom and get myself together because that song is a trigger for me. You know what I mean? But I really, I know he's in a better place. I know he's watching us. I know he's looking down on us. I just can feel his presence still here. Even though it's been a month since he died, I can still feel his presence. As for his wife and our so-called family friend, I wish them well. I hope they get what they want and what they deserve. And this was the first episode of Durag Diaries. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. And if y'all want more of these, let me know. I'll holler at you later. Peace out.